I'm not sure if you are familiar with Qwertyfshag. He's a Muslim, evangelist, defender of the faith, who every so often posts a rather shallow and unconvincing argument on YouTube. The one I'm addressing is Atheism Destroyed with One Question, and you can find the link below in the description. His question goes, which came first, the chicken or the egg? To answer your question, eggs came first millions of years before the first chicken ever evolved. Of course, I understand your intended question is, which came first, the chicken or the chicken egg? And there is an answer. But first, let me look at your conclusion that you ended with at the end of your chicken-egg dilemma. You postulate that since there are chickens and eggs, that one must have come first, and that proves that a divine creator must have intervened with the universe, as we know it, to supernaturally create either an egg or a chicken. I guess you're just trying to prove that a God exists, rather than the specific God Allah, because a chicken is hardly proof that the Quran is correct, but that's okay, we'll stick with the generic creator argument. You got the problem wrong, and the conclusion as well. This really isn't a chicken versus egg problem so much as it is a two chickens or two eggs problem. The species would die out very quickly if one such creation took place. The conclusion is wrong as well, because there is more than one possible answer to how chickens and eggs are around today, such as chickens have always existed. Maybe the universe has existed since infinity, and chickens and eggs along with it. Chickens were created, not by a supernatural being, but by a natural being who knew how to use DNA to create living beings. After all, we do have creatures that have been artificially made that neither nature nor God created. A slow and lengthy process of evolution by which self-replicating molecules became asexual organisms and different groups of descendants became different creatures, some of them sexual organisms, and those further branched out into other organisms, but one branch did in fact lead to chickens. We could go the nihilist route and just say that chickens don't exist, but no one really cares what nihilists think. So we've got three other possible outcomes, two far-fetched, and one that agrees with the preeminent experts on the subject, evolutionary biologists. Your contribution to our list of possible chicken and egg creation possibilities is magic. A magical being magically makes a natural creature. I'm not sure if far-fetched even begins to describe this theory. For the sake of argument, let's narrow down the list. Let's get rid of chickens always existing because it's unlikely that chickens survived the Big Bang or whatever pre-universe state the universe was in before the Big Bang. Let's also get rid of chickens being engineered because, although, I will pause for a moment and say that we have as much evidence to support these natural engineers as we do to support supernatural engineers put forth by religion. Anyway, we've got my theory and Qwertyfshag's theory. Science versus magic. So what is the answer? The chicken or the chicken egg? My theory, the answer is the egg. We start with self-replicating molecules that become asexual beings. Asexual beings split in two, so there are no eggs. And if you want to argue that these great ancestors of chickens should count because they are in the family tree, then the answer is the adult becomes before the egg. It's not until you get sexual beings that you have organisms using their evolved sex organs, and there aren't any eggs until there are females. Flash forward a few million years to answer the specific questions about chickens as a species. You've got a collection of bird organisms that are more and more like the chickens we know today, each of them laying eggs. If we had all of those birds organized by which generation they are, I suppose you could eventually draw a line between the species chicken and the species pre-chicken, based on where a mutation happened. The last pre-chicken would have laid an egg with a mutation that made it a chicken egg. It really doesn't matter where in the timeline we draw this line, because on one side there will be a chicken, and on the other side will be a pre-chicken, and the line represents the chicken egg that was laid to get from one species to the next. Of course, we're really abusing the term species with this example, and are boiling everything down to a mutation that differentiates between chickens and pre-chickens. The chickens would be able to mate with the pre-chickens, but its mutation would win out over the non-mutated pre-chicken genes. So let's look at the other theory. Well, like so many other things, religion fails to answer anything. Did God, whoever he, she, it, or they may be, create two chickens or two eggs? Did God create thousands of chickens and eggs at the same time? What about a pregnant chicken? Why did God decide to create a DNA sequence that can be traced backwards to the most basic of life forms? Why create a chicken at all? Why did God wait millions of years to create the first chicken by magic? Why did God create so many pre-chickens just to have them die out? Why did God stop creating animals magically? The problem is, even if we could prove that chickens magically popped into existence, that still doesn't mean that God did it. The gap in logic between chickens exist, therefore God exists, is just as big as magic chickens came into being, therefore God exists. Ultimately, this whole exercise of chickens and eggs is really an attempt to answer another question. Did God invent men, or did men invent God? We're choosing between magic and people make shit up. Magic, mind you, has never been observed. Meanwhile, even a theist would have to admit that the thousands and thousands of other deities he or she does not worship have been made up. So which is it? Magic, or the pattern that we see all around us all the time?